Hello, it's Carrie Bradford, and today I'm going to show you not only how to use vinyl in your silhouette, but I'm also going to share a few of the favorite ways that I like to use it. The type of vinyl you can get can make a huge difference, especially when you're dealing with more intricate pieces. I don't necessarily use my vinyl in the most conventional of ways. I use it in scrapbooking or use it for screen printing, and using a vinyl with a stronger adhesive makes a world of difference. I'm not sure what else is out there. I've had minimal experience with the Cricut vinyl. I've mostly dealt with silhouette vinyl because I know what I'm buying and it's a quality vinyl. It comes in tons of different colors, but I primarily use the basics of black and white, and recently I have been on a kick with the gold vinyl lately. That's just lots of fun right there. There's also a brand called Oracal that you can get from places like signwarehouse.com, and if you go that route, you'll want the Oracal 651 style. Now here's just a few ways that I've used it recently. I love using the gold. It kind of gives it that bit of shimmer. And you can see here I've made just kind of a couple little cards where I've used the negative space and the positive space both. And then you can also use it to cut out a design, so you can give it a fun background like that. Or you can simply add the vinyl on top of cardstock and then cut it out into the shape that you need. So that's another fun way. I've also used it to create my Jingle All the Way, and that was a lot of fun. You can put it on glass, you can put it on wood, all different types of mediums. This is my favorite thing of late, is to put it onto a transparency. And you can see I've put the gold confetti down here on this one. And on this I have used white vinyl to create a page. And another way I have used it is to do screen printing and use that as my template in order to pull the ink through. And I'll post a link to a blog post I did on that. I used that for making t-shirts earlier this summer. To create your own overlays, you can use a transparency that you can buy from an office supply store. Just buy some blank transparencies. They are kind of expensive. My son happens to work at a copy store, and so he picked me up a couple, and so I have those on hand. I also have purchased these Basil clear sheets. That's what that one is on. And these are really nice because they're sturdier for a page, whereas the other one I would probably use over a photo, so you can make your own white photo overlays and have some fun with that. But the Basil sheets, they come with this little protective coating, and all you have to do is just kind of rip it down, and then you can see what it looks like. And they also come in 12 by 12 or 8.5 by 11. However, that being said, when I went out to look for where you could find them before I recorded this video, I could not find them online anymore. So I am not sure where you can find the Basil clear plastic sheets, but I saw some others that were out there. They just kind of have different gauges, and I want to say mine was 0.2. I think it's a 0.20 gauge, so it's, definitely got some stability to it. So what you're going to need to get started is, of course, you're going to need to have some vinyl. And so I have some different types of vinyl here. And then you're also going to need transfer paper. And transfer paper is just like a giant piece of masking tape that you use to pick up your image from the vinyl backing and then place it onto the surface you want. You'll also want some kind of smoothing device. This just happens to be a scraper that I got from Probocraft some time ago. Silhouette also makes some, and it's just so that you can push down with your scraper and transfer the image from one place to another, whether you're doing it from the backing to the tape or the tape to your surface that you're working with. You can also use an old credit or gift card, and any of those things will work. So then you're going to also need something to put it on. And for my little example, I'm going to be using this piece here. I'm making another little insert for my December album that I'm working on. And so that's what I am using. And so if you're going to use it for scrapbooking, you'll want to have that ready. And then if you may be using it on wood or some other surface, I don't have a lot of experience in using vinyl for that kind of decor, so we're not going to go into that arena in this video. Next, we'll want to load the vinyl. Now, generally speaking, I like using the 9-inch wide vinyl because most of the time what I'm doing is small, and so I don't need that length, and it's possible waste. But for this example, I do have the 12-inch wide because it was the only wide I had on hand. It also happens to be Oracal 631, which isn't as sturdy of a vinyl. That's where I was talking about. These things make a difference, and the 631 is okay, but the 651 is great. So first off, you do not need a mat to cut vinyl. You can use a mat if you want to, if you're going to maybe be using a scrap, but anything that has a sticky back does not need a mat. Now, if I were going to be using the 9-inch vinyl, I would want to adjust these rollers so that it would set at the width of the 9 inches. And so that would be about at either this mark or this mark here. And to do that, all you have to do is you pull down the lever, and you can see that just moves the bar up. And then you're going to carefully, I'll hold on to the metal bar and twist this so that it's out of the groove and slide it down so that it sets within the groove that I need here. And then you would just pop that back up into place. So now it's set for 9-inch vinyl. And you also align here at this line. There's regular lines going along like this, but you're going to want to align it at the tiny little line that's next to the very last long line that's here. So I'm going to go ahead and just set this back, and we're going to just slightly twist it and move it on back so that we are at the spot for the 12-inch vinyl. Let's see if we can't get that to lock into place. There we go. So the next thing you're going to want to do is make sure that your machine is set to load media. Currently mine is set at load cutting mat. So I'm going to press the down arrow key one time. So now it is on load media. And that makes a difference when you're going to load in whatever it is you're cutting. If you're using a mat, it's going to feed it in farther than if you're just loading the media. On a mat, you have like a little extra space at the top that you want to account for. When you're loading media, there is not that space of the mat. So that's the difference between those two. Then you want to go ahead and slide your vinyl in underneath the rollers. And you have to be kind of careful because you want to make sure that it gets in under all of the rollers there so that it doesn't bunch up. And this one's kind of bunched up. And you want to make sure it gets under the black parts of the rollers. And I kind of just hold it with my fingers to make sure that it stays nice and flat, and then press the enter button to feed it in. And if you feel like it is going to be a little shallow, you can always press the down arrow key and it feeds it in farther. Or you can go this way and it feeds it back. Now the one last thing I'm going to cover here before we head into studio is I know that vinyl is cut using a blade setting of 2. So I'm going to want to change that now. All you have to do is turn this little lever here, pick up your blade, and you can see that it is currently set to 5. So I'm going to put it in this little ratchet cap thing here. If you have a newer machine, it's going to probably have a flat surface, but I'm just going to go ahead and turn that, and you can see there's a little dial there, and now I've got it at 2. Now the other thing that I do when I go to put it back in is I'm kind of crazy. I'm kind of set in the old ways. Back when there was just the SD and the original, this little groovy thing that's at the front, well, I call it the front, you always had to make sure that was setting in the front of your blade housing. I don't know why, I still do it. It's just what I do. I don't know if it makes a difference in cutting, but old habits die hard. And you want to make sure that is all the way down, because I have been known to not get it all the way down in there, and then it screws up my cutting. So then you're just going to lock that back into place. And now let's go on over into our software and set up the cut.
Okay, so we have our image up on our screen. Now what we want to do is we want to come up here to our cut settings because we need to prepare it for a vinyl setting. If you come down here, you can see there is a material type, and I have the vinyl setting that Silhouette has predefined for us clicked on. If I click on it again, then we're just going to go ahead and scroll down, and you can see here that you have the choice to change your blade setting. We need to make this match what's on your machine. So right now mine is set to 2. You can click and drag and change that as you need to. It'll just make sure that whatever you're going to use is pointing to this little pointer right here. And by using the predefined setting for vinyl, we get a speed of 8 and a thickness of 9. Again, you don't need to use a mat. You can if you'd like, but you don't need to as long as it's not cutting through the vinyl. The next thing that we do is we just go ahead and send it to our Silhouette.
Okay, so it's already loaded in and ready to go. So let's go ahead and send our image to the Silhouette and get it cutting. Alrighty, so now we're just going to go ahead and press the enter button for unload, and you can see we have our image there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and slice this off with my paper trimmer and come back and we'll get it weeded. Okay, so now let's go ahead and give this a weed. Removing all of the excess vinyl is called weeding. So I'm just going to kind of grab this edge and let's remove away the excess vinyl that we don't need. You want to make sure that you leave the parts that are needed. Sometimes the vinyl will kind of pick things up that you don't want to be picked up. Like you can see it's picked up part of that H, and sometimes I just have a little paper piercer handy and it just kind of helps hold things down while my fingers are doing other things. And go ahead and just remove this like so. And then what you're going to need to do is you're going to have to go through and pick out all of these little pieces out of the snowflake. And it will be a little bit cumbersome, but it'll be worth it in the end. And then of course you'll want to take out the centers to the letters. And like I said, I'll use this a lot of times just to kind of go through and poke things out. It just kind of helps move things away that you don't want. And then, I'd pick it up with my fingers, but we don't want to watch this whole process because it'd get a little boring. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this and weed out all of this stuff. And then we will come back and be ready to put this onto our transfer paper and onto the plastic sheet that we're putting it on. Okay, so now you can see we have it all nicely weeded away. And we have a bit of transfer paper here so that we can use that to put it on our, in this case it's a piece of plastic, so that I can use this as my insert for my December album. I also have my little scraper here so that I can rub it as I need to. So I'm just going to go ahead and slightly peel away some of the transfer paper. I usually like to start out with just a little bit and lay it down so that you're not dealing with this massive piece of tape and trying to stick it down on top of something. So I'm just going to go ahead and place it so that it's nice and even, and then gently pull this away as I'm bringing this down. And you can see I didn't quite get it even enough, but that's okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and rub this out. Just give it a nice rub. And then we're going to pull away the transfer tape from the vinyl backing, and it should pull everything up like so. And now we have our piece of plastic, and I'm going to try and line that up. I want to give myself more of a left edge just because I'm going to punch holes in it. So I'm going to try that. Let's see how that looks on the back, just because I can do that. I think that looks pretty straight. It's a little bit off, but I don't know if I'm going to get it much straighter than that. So I'm just going to go ahead and give that a rub again. And just peel it off. And if you find that it wants to stick, then you can just rub it again, like so. But I think this is going to work out pretty good. And there we go. And sometimes I like to save my tape because it can be reused for some things. And I'll set that aside, and look at how cute that is. Again, I wanted a little bit of gap there just so that I could punch holes in it, but that is going to insert into my card and it's going to be darling. I love it. All right, so now you are an expert at how to use vinyl, so go and have some fun with that, and thanks for stopping by.